Welcome to the Diary of an Apartment Investor podcast. I'm your host, Brian Briscoe. Have a good friend on the line. We got Andy Borses with us. So, Andy, welcome.
Hey, nice to be here, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, before we get into your story, just for everybody else, Andy was mentioned that he's got a book out. So, Andy, I'm going to put you on the spot right now and ask you about the book and, where we can get copies of it.
The book's name is The Common Thread Method. It's
Mhm.
co-written by one of my mentors, Jen Conkey.
Okay.
It's available on Kindle and Amazon, and currently being produced as a Audible book. So that should be
Nice.
out hopefully in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My own personal opinion, if it's not on Audible, I'm probably not gonna. Yeah. I,
Yeah.
I, I buy a lot of books that end up on my bookshelves, but the ones that get read in air quotes. So
Yeah.
common threads, and I know your shirt says the same thing. Tell us, I mean, what's the premise of the book and why should we pick up a copy?
So the premise of the book is, as you and I both, we go to a lot of events, right?
Mhm.
And I was giving my elevator pitch, and I found myself after a couple of years thinking, we always do this, but who are we, right? What are our common threads? Like, we know that we're in real estate. We know we have this amount of properties, or we're in public storage or multifamily or whatever, but who are you,
Yeah.
right? What is the common thread? And based on that, how can we use that common thread as capital raisers to dive deeper into relationships and create the value for the people we're bringing into the deals with us? It's not techniques, it's more mindset.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, when I started, learning about multifamily and started thinking about, doing more than just being an employee. I used to think all that mindset stuff was just garbage, but at one point I took a hard look back and, I've had like the mindset breakthroughs were almost always accompanied by performance breakthroughs. Hit a mindset breakthrough and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I can do that, and you go through. But anyway, just for people listening, I put a lot more onus in mindset now than I do techniques. I think techniques are important, but yeah, anyway, I like the premise of your book. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I did a lot of research. I mean, it was a lot of my own experience, but I did a lot of research into the book as well. And we can dive, I guess, into that later.
Yeah.
But it comes from that, right? It comes from going to all these events and just
Mhm.
figuring out that people weren't asking the right questions.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, we had met on LinkedIn a long time ago, but I think we met at Michael Blanc's event,
Yes.
probably 2023 is where we met
Yeah.
in person for the first time. So, and just another, plug social media. I mean, just because we had interacted a lot in social media, what was really cool about, meeting you for the first time is I knew exactly who you were because I'd seen you on LinkedIn a lot. And it was like meeting an old friend, even though it was the first time we'd ever seen each other. But anyway, that said, let's jump into your journey and why don't you go ahead and tell us how you got into real estate to begin with?
Well, I had no real estate investment experience at all. So
Mhm.
other
Well,
than my wife,
you raise money, right?
I do, but I
Yeah,
also
that's like yeah. Okay, good.
yeah, I raised money for this, but I started the journey really as an acquisition person. I had no experience, and my wife had no experience. I worked in the TV and film industry. She has her own business in the beauty
Yep.
industry, and we own a home and we owned a townhome, but that was about our experience. And I love doing what I do. Don't get me wrong, and I still do it. I contract and consult and do some other things on the side,
Mhm.
but bottom line was COVID changed our world. Like it changed a
Yeah.
lot of other people's world. And we went down the path that everybody else did. We read Rich Dad Poor Dad. We searched for the right answers on YouTube and got a lot of dead ends. And then finally decided that we were going to need a mentor to make this happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, so at first when we got into our mentorship program, they were talking about ARV, and I thought they were talking about ATVs. And I said, yeah, I got a couple of them in my garage.
You're like, yeah, you betcha.
So
Yeah.
that was really the path. And sometimes, you're forced into a path that is a better path than the one you're on because we had no vehicle for retirement. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's for me. I think there was a similar awakening. Mine happened pre-COVID, but it was just kind of I realized the trajectory I was on wasn't taking me where I wanted to go, and I bought my first apartment complex 5 months before COVID shut everything down, which is a
Well,
crazy, ridiculous time to own your first apartment complex. But yeah,
right.
I mean. Rich Dad Poor Dad was also a catalyst for me. I think it is for a lot of people, but yeah, go from there to try to improve your situation. So how do things progress? You got into coaching program, looking at ARV, all this other stuff. How'd you progress from there?
Well, our first 9 months was horrible, just to be
Mhm.
transparent,
Okay.
because when you're in the position that I am, and I was controlling a lot of things in my life, as far as being in the film and TV industry. I was a technical director, so I
Mhm.
was the bottom line, right? The buck
Yeah.
stopped with me. I had to put my ego away and actually listen to our mentors.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's when things started happening. When I had a conversation and my mentor said, "The reason why this isn't working is you're not working it."
Yeah. And that's the nice thing about, or the good thing about, a lot of mentors is they tell you what you need to hear and not
Yeah.
necessarily what you want to hear, and I've had similar conversations with mentors like, Brian, you need to actually listen to me. You're like, oh yeah, I do. But okay. So first 9 months sucked. And I can honestly say that it took me almost a full year after starting mentorship before I had anything to
Mhm.
show for it. So from that same angle, my first 9 months, I had zero to show for it. So patience, patience.
I think people get discouraged, but it's going to take that amount of time.
Yeah.
From zero to owning something in a year. It was an interesting time too, because interest rates were lower back then. So we got into the Burr method. I could tell you that all day long. I know how to do those all day long. And then, we got into our first three triplexes and things started taking off from there.
Nice.
And that's where the magic started happening, is I believed that we could do it.
Mhm. Yeah. That's an amazing difference. I think with me, I remember, one of these mindset shifts that I had. I went to a conference. It was a Michael Blanc conference in 2018. So gosh, it's been a long time. I remember a guy was there. He wasn't one of the coaches. He wasn't really affiliated with Michael Blanc. He lived in the area, but he owned like over 1,000 units at the time. We were both military veterans, and that's kind of why we got talking. Is he had just retired, and I was getting ready to retire, and I remember him putting his hand on my shoulder and physically churning me, so I was facing like everybody in the networking area. And I remember him saying, there's a lot of people in here that aren't as smart as you, aren't as prepared as you, aren't as organized, don't have the leadership you have, that all own properties. And that was kind of like a mindset set shift for me. I think exactly what you said. I believed that I could after that. And guess what? I did. So yeah. Anyway, cool. So take us from there.
Well, the other thing I recognized was that, in any mentorship program, if you're not visible and you're not on camera and you're not doing the work, the people that are moving ahead of you and doing deals are not really looking at you as somebody they want to do a deal with. And that
Yeah.
was a big mindset shift for me when I realized, like, there were people getting on the calls that were doing 2 or 3 deals a week,
Yeah.
and my camera was off.
Mhm.
Because, my camera was off. And it wasn't until I realized that this is what I need to do to get to the next level. So I started participating, and in the chats, I meant whatever possible opportunity I had to comment on something, I did that. Whatever opportunity I had to call the other people in the mentorship group just to say, "Hey, what are you doing?" I did that. So things had to change.
Yeah.
And that's what the next step was. And then there was somebody in the group that recognized that I guess I'm a really good talker,
Mhm.
being from New York, right? He called me and he said, "Hey, I have a deal in Tampa. It's a 14 unit and I need to raise capital for it. And,
Mhm.
you seem like the guy that's been putting out a lot of fires and bringing money to deals." Because that's really how I transitioned into this, was bringing money into triplexes, duplexes, and things like that, and finding the money for it.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, "How do you feel about raising $1.4 million?" And I went, "I have no idea how I can do that, but sure."
Yeah. Give it a good old try. So how did that go?
It went well. It it
Okay.
it went better than I anticipated. Like I
Mhm.
said, I had spent 9 months or a year building up my reputation in that group. And because that's what it takes, right? You can't be a wallflower, and you have to be visible in any group that you're in.
Yeah.
And so I built up, the know, like, and trust factor. That's what
Mhm.
it took. I know that that's kind of cliche, but that's really the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reality is things are cliche because they are true.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just how the world works. But yeah, know, like, and trust. You got to be visible. You got to be visible first. I think that was your first point. And then once you're visible, build know, like, and trust. And then, that's a recipe for success in a lot of things. So especially the capital raising game. Put this in timeline, when was this first capital raise that you did?
So we started in 2020, so it's probably around 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So 21, you raised a good chunk of capital. Yeah, I mean that's actually a really good chunk, for first time capital raisers. And I've been around a whole lot of them. I tell people in my mentorship program that if you can hit 300 to 500,000 on your first capital raise, you're doing well. So, if you hit seven figures on that first one, you got to be smoking good. But yeah.
It was, I had to pinch myself because I was a poor kid from New York, right? And
Yeah.
then, and that $1.4 million was never in my bank account ever. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, on my first capital raise, and this is also a mindset thing. I mean, I couldn't even imagine, what $1 million was. And our
right.
first capital raise was like a $1.7 million capital raise between four people. And, I had a hard time, just imagining dollar amounts more than like 200,000. I think the most I had ever had in an account at a single time was when we sold a house and I had like 150K, so just getting over the numbers, for
Yeah.
me was a big mindset shift, and then our last capital raise was near 8 million. So we've definitely
Right.
progressed since then.
It was really realizing that
Mhm.
as I was talking to people, they were giving me, I'm listening for their pain points, right? And as I'm talking to them, I'm realizing that why leave your money in a bank where it's not making any money? I can make that money work for you. But I had to get over that whole mindset that we're taught as kids, right?
Mhm.
And there's a litany of them. I'm not going to go through them because we all have them.
Yeah, and it's crazy. There's other books that talk about it. I'm thinking of one about T. Harv Eker. I don't even remember what it's called. I just remember he was the one that wrote it. But he talks about a lot of the scripts we learn with money, and going through that one. I'm like, yep, yep, yep.
Mhm.
Just little things from saying you can't afford it all the time to whatnot. But yeah, I think my very first capital raise, I raised 400,000 on my first, and that was probably twice as much as what I thought I could. And I was like tickled pink that I hit that amount. But a lot of work that I've done since has been, in my headspace. So
Yeah,
yeah.
mine as well. And I follow him as well, by the way, D. Harvey. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that he puts out. I don't agree with all of it, but a lot of really, really good stuff that he puts out. So a lot of on money and a lot of on mindset. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
that was 2021. What's happened since then, and how have things progressed?
So, you start out small. We built a team, is what we did.
Mhm.
And he was smart enough to know that, I could do my job, he could do his job. He was amazing at acquisitions. We needed a third person who was an asset manager, and she happened to be in the same mentorship program. She had 25 years of target in procurement, and she's an amazing woman. So you have to build a team. You can't do this yourself. And he recognized that early on. And that's why our team has grown to where it is today, is because we're not going after shiny objects. We're staying within the team that we've
Mhm.
built. Right. We know how we work together well. So the
Mhm.
next one after that was a 32 unit in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And that was not a syndication, that was a joint venture, but it was a Freddie Mac loan. So it was an assumable loan, which was a great deal. It was at 3.9%, just as the cusp of interest rates were going to skyrocket, right? That's why the Burr method no longer worked for us. So
Yeah.
we had to switch gears that way too. So that was our next one. The next one was a 32 unit in Cincinnati. I think I raised about $1 million for that one
Mhm.
as well. And so, I started growing the network, my own network, and getting outside of our own network, because I knew that if we were going to go do bigger deals, I would have to spread my wings and cast a bigger net. That was
Yeah, that's something that I thought about. I mean, it's something that I think a lot of people think about from the very beginning is, where do you want, what do you want your portfolio to look like, 5 or 6 years from now, right? So some people would be very perfectly happy buying a bunch of smaller properties with $1 and $2 million capital raises. You can get a lot of property, you can make a really, really good living doing that, make a ton of money for your investors as well. Other people want to go as fast as they can to the 100 plus units. And there's a lot of coaching programs that kind of teach that hey, you want to get to the biggest, properties possible. So I don't think either way is right or wrong, but can we go a little deeper into why you guys chose to go the way you guys went?
Well, because of our coaching program, really. They're very conservative, and I believe in that because I
Mhm.
don't believe you just jump into your first deal at 100 or 200 units. The asset management piece is great, the capital raising piece is great, but if you can't asset manage that property well, that's where you're going to lose your investors' money.
Yeah.
And so we were following the path that was laid out for us, and it worked.
Mhm.
So we went from a 14 unit to a 32 unit. So we were taking tiny progressions to make sure that we were stress testing our team and
Mhm.
that we knew what the hell we were doing and how
Yeah.
to deal with property managers, how to deal with tenants, how to deal with things going wrong with the property, right? So
Yeah.
that's what it was. It was just a very slow progression because their whole thing is when you get into a property, don't look at another property. You need to stabilize the property you have, get it to where the value add is that you're looking for,
Mhm.
start giving out the distributions, and then look for another property.
Mhm. Yeah, that's conservative, and you're not going to mess up
Yeah.
ever doing that. I will go back. One of our very first properties, actually, this was the very first. I think one of the biggest mistakes we made was jumping into our second deal that fast after the first one. We had our second deal under contract before the first one closed.
Wow.
And, inside that partnership, we had one guy that was just like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And he was pushing, and you had two guys that we were trying to rein him back, but he convinced us that, hey, let's just do it. And we did it. And some of the things you said, we ended up making money on both properties. All right. So it's not like we lost money, but if you look at what we were prepared for and ready to handle, we weren't prepared and ready to handle what we did. So the way you're going forward is probably the more secure way of doing things, safe. It's definitely a little bit safer.
Yeah, and I've had, our investors, my investors have invested throughout all of the next couple of
Mhm.
ones that we've done. Sidebar, one of our investors who my wife surprised me for my birthday yesterday
Mhm.
actually showed up to the event.
Oh,
Who's
nice.
invested a good amount of money with me. So
Mhm.
that's what I look for, right? I
Yeah.
don't I'm not transactional.
Mhm.
So that's what I look for in relationships, right?
Yeah.
People that know that you're being a good custodian of their money.
Mhm. Yeah, and if they're showing up to your birthday parties, they at least like you enough that, but yeah, well, cool. Yeah, that's the way I've been doing things. I've been getting a lot of my investors through LinkedIn. It's a little bit easier. I live in a small town, but when I look at, what I want my business to be like, I want it to be, lunches, and things like that, and relationship based, not transactional based. It's a little more difficult to do when you're using social media, but I think it's still possible. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a really good indicator there. So,
So the next one we jumped to was a 96 unit. That was a big lift.
mhm.
And it just so happened that the guy who sold us the 32 unit owned this 96 unit. This one's in Northern Kentucky. And my partner called me and he said, how do you feel about raising $3.2 million?
Mhm.
I don't know how I feel about that, but let me take a look at the deal.
Yeah.
So that's actually a crown jewel in my
Mhm.
portfolio.
Nice.
It's a 96 units in Northern Kentucky. It's absolutely gorgeous, but it was a big lift. It truly
Yeah.
was, right? And
Nice.
that's when I really realized I needed a bigger network to go bigger.
Mhm. Yeah, that's something that I think I'm hitting right now. Now, I mean, granted, I think 24 is 2024. When I say 24, probably my hardest year for raising money, but that's something that I think I had this realization early last year that, for me to do more properties and go bigger, I've got to expand. I've got to expand the network. Yeah, got to do all that. So we're still
So
a
that
work in progress, of course, but
every day,
yeah,
every day,
every day, expand the network. So what things are you doing to expand your network, and what things are you doing to stay relevant?
every day, not as efficiently as you, but
Mhm.
I am on LinkedIn. If I'm not posting, I'm commenting. I still have my W-2 and there's personal reasons for that.
Yep.
Right. And I still contract out. But how I'm growing my network is still going to events,
Mhm.
right? I'll be going to a couple this year, probably see you there
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
But I'm also expanding by realizing that I have to get to other events that have nothing to do with capital raising and everything to do with, like doctor conferences or lawyer conferences or CPA conferences. So get into higher net worth types of situations and start meeting people in those worlds, because I met a lot of doctors who are incredibly unhappy with what they're doing and they want to make their money work for them, but they're working their tails off and don't have a
Mhm.
lot of time. So that's really my focus. Is I spent all of last year going to Raise Masters,
Mhm.
all those things that we go to, right? Raise
Yeah.
Fest and building that muscle and that network of people.
Mhm.
So this year I sat down and really thought about what is it going to take to get to the next level. And those are the avatars I want to be talking
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. When you go to Raise Fest, or let me step back. It's not just Raise Fest. When you
Right.
go to a lot of the multifamily conferences, you have competing interests with most people in the room.
Yep.
You know, that's one thing that I've realized with like my LinkedIn posts. When I look at who likes and comments, most of them are people who have the same outlook as I do. They're trying to
Yep.
find investors, but you've got to go to where the investors are at. The
Yep.
the people who are going to invest in your deals aren't necessarily going to show up. I mean, we'll use Michael Blanc conference and Raise Masters as examples because those are the ones that popped up. They're not going to go to those conferences. Okay.
Right.
They're going to be in different conferences. I think that's a good thing to realize earlier as opposed to later. And I've joined several groups in the last 2 years to try to do exactly that. Put me in front of other people that aren't competing with me.
Yeah, and those people really need the help. They're at a tax disadvantage because they make a lot of money and they need a place to put their money. So,
Yeah.
if we could show them how to force appreciation in what they're doing, then
Mhm.
that's really my goal, is making that difference. As a sidebar, I'm starting a mentorship program for kids 16 to 25
Nice.
called Rise by 25. And Jen and Stacy Conkey, who right,
Mhm. Yep.
for Remote Multifamily Investment Academy.
Mhm.
It's going to be an arm of that, working in tandem with them, because why reinvent the wheel? They've been incredibly successful.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's the other thing we're doing.
Nice. Why did you pick that age group, the 16 to 25?
Because there's something in the universe right now, because there's other people doing, there's a show coming out called Kids Who Flip. I don't know if you know
Mhm.
Jesse Trujillo and his kids,
Nope.
but he's part of the seven figure flipping.
Mhm. Okay.
So
That brand I'm aware of. Yeah. Okay.
So they are actually producing a show that's going to be on TV called Kids Who Flip.
That's cool.
And so there's other people out there that are starting to see this.
Mhm.
And I think I hate calling it literacy, but financial responsibility in
Mhm.
that age group is not being taught, because we weren't taught it.
No.
Our goal is to show kids in that age bracket how they can rise by 25 by the time they're 25, so
Mhm.
that they don't have to spend 30 years paying off their student loans or whatever else they're doing,
Yeah.
by using real
Exactly.
estate as that market. I mean, as
Yeah.
that vehicle.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, it's a crucial age for a lot of people. It's kind of like that. I've got two kids that are on the 20, early 20s. And, when I was that age, when I was 16, I don't think I would have listened to anybody because I had all the answers. But yeah, something like that were around when I was early 20s. I think I would have loved to. I mean, looking back at it, I would have loved to be involved in that.
I am not going to be the face of it. We have two amazing kids that are going to be doing it. One's 18, one's 25.
Hmm.
So they are going to be the face of it, and it's going to be talking their language, not
Hmm.
not the old dude in the room.
That's true. That's true.
So maybe they'll listen to them.
Yeah, and then one thing I promised myself when I was, 18 to 25 group is that I would, always be, in tune with that age group's vernacular. And oh my goodness, I mean, my kids are saying things to me that I'm just looking at them like I'm an old dad. Oh my gosh, I am an old dad now. But oh
And
well.
you know
Yeah.
what? We're still cool. And
Yeah,
and
I
these two
mean,
kids think I'm
just in different
incredibly cool.
crowds. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, just cool in different crowds.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, cool, cool. Well, let's see, we've been talking for a good half hour, so we probably need to start wrapping up. But a couple questions to finish things up. What's next for you, and what are you looking forward to?
Well, I'll be closing on two more deals January 15th and 17th, which is crazy because I've been working on these 2 deals for 6 months now. So
Mhm.
raised, I don't remember the number, but
Mhm.
they're really amazing deals. One's in Virginia and one's in Missouri.
Okay.
So we'll be doing
Nice.
that. And then I'm going to focus on doing a lot more with the book, the
Mhm.
Common Thread Method, which again is on Amazon,
Mhm.
and teaching what's in that book. And then Rise by 25 will be hopefully launching in April. That's our target date,
Mhm.
and really getting that off the ground. People are coming to me with deals right now that they want me to help them raise capital for. So it's a
Mhm.
good place to be in, as you probably know, right? It's a good place to be
Mhm.
in where people are actually bringing you deals instead of you chasing after deals.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of new coaching students or mentoring clients. I haven't decided what to call them, but one thing I tell them is the best skill you could have in this industry is raising capital because your skills will always, always, always be in demand. And if you can consistently raise, 7 figures, you can pick the deal you're going to be in. Almost anybody will take you if you can consistently raise 7 figures, as far as, a partner or whatever. So yeah, very, very, very important skill to have. But
Totally is.
yeah. And the next question, what advice would you give to somebody who is just starting out in this business?
You go farther faster
Mhm.
with a mentor. Don't try to do this yourself. You can get breadcrumbs from YouTube, you can get breadcrumbs from a lot of other places, but trying to do this yourself, you're just going to get frustrated and quit.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big proponent of mentorship.
Yeah, me too. Me too, 100%.
Yeah.
All right. And last question, how can listeners learn more about you?
So they can go to the common thread method.org,
Okay.
and it's on there. They can go to my Facebook page or LinkedIn,
Mhm.
which I'll give to you. And I have an Instagram account as well, but I'm not that cool yet. Working
Mhm.
on it.
Yep. 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 Got it. Got it. So, and we'll put links to the website. We'll put your LinkedIn account.
And
All
if
right.
they go on the website, they can get a free workbook
Okay.
that actually complements the book itself.
Okay. Awesome.
Which honestly, there wasn't enough. The book was getting too long.
Mhm.
So the workbook's just not a workbook. It's just pretty detailed.
Kind of extension of the book.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. Well, awesome. Well, for those listening, check the show notes if you're interested in any of that. You want to connect with Andy or me, actually. I put my link in there as well. But check it out. Check out his book. Andy, let me know when it's on Audible because
I
I
will.
do most of my book listening when I'm driving or pedaling on my bike. So yeah, love to get that a listen.
Absolutely. I would be honored to send you a copy.
Yeah. Can you give me a signed copy of the Audible version?
Sure. Let's see how that works.
Yeah, or just give me have whoever's recording it give me a shout out, somewhere in there. But no, anyway, thanks for coming on this show. Very much appreciate your time.
Oh, it was amazing. Thank you.